Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind Group podcast. Here we're all about breaking free from the 40 to 50-year work grind and accelerating our journey towards financial freedom. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast-track your path to financial independence. We serve as a hub for connecting with fellow members during our sessions so you can share successes, ask questions, and keep the momentum going.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Niyi Adewale, host of the Akaba Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group, and I'm excited to be joining you guys here. And so kind of what we talk about all the time is you've got to have definite goals. You've got to have a focus in mind, and each day just go one step closer to reaching that goal, and you'll be surprised what you can accomplish in a short period of time. And so I know that for myself, there's some goals for this last quarter of the year. I know that for a lot of the clients that are working with the Akaba Home team, they have goals for the last quarter of the year. And so we're looking to accomplish those and really finish the year out strong heading into 2025. But tonight is going to be an open session. And so if this is your first time joining or you're a mainstay here, you want to just click the chat button down below to ask any questions and or join live and be able to ask questions and join into the conversation. But this is going to be an open session. And while we're waiting for people to join and for questions to come in of that event. And so I will pause there and give you guys times to jump on. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat and or join live. There he goes. Justin, how you doing, man?
What's going on, Dan? I figured I want to leave you here by yourself.
Come on now. I appreciate you. I know it's been a while. I wanted to send the message back to let people know we are back. I know I was out of it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I understand, man. Honestly, the whole time you was out, I was pretty much out of it myself. Had a lot of stuff going on. I was actually up in Boston last week, your old stomping ground. So pretty good time up there. I was up there for about a week.
Were you with the champions?
But actually, I didn't go to Celtics Media Day. I went to that Tuesday. I had some other obligations that I had to take care of, but I was up there for some Celtic stuff. I was just doing a lot of stuff with people in the area. I went to like the community rowing center. I don't know if you ever went to Mike's Pastries.
I've heard of it. I never actually made it out to Mike's Pastries, but I've heard of it.
So I was at some of the more popular spots in Boston, just interviewing people around what the Celtics did. Got a piece that I'm working on. Should be good.
Dope. And has everything settled down for you heading in it? Well, you mentioned that this year's there's not going to be a change. It's the following years that there would be a change for the media deal?
Yeah, it'd be next year. So this year, we're pretty much business as usual. We're going to go throughout this season as if everything's the same, but next year we won't have the NBA, so that'll be new. Working on a couple other properties. We got the NHL, MLB, and some NASCAR events, so that's what we're going to be transitioning to. We actually have 2 college football playoff games this year too, so I'll be getting back in the swing of things, working on some football once the playoffs get here, so that should be interesting.
Let me write that down. I know who to hit up for tickets. All right. So, okay. Sideline pass. Okay. We are good. No, that's cool, man. That's really cool. And next time you're going out to Boston, you got to let me know. We got some food spots that you have to go to. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, man. I'm always, I'm out there. I'm always so busy. But I did go. So I stayed up in Newton, not really in the city. I went to like a seafood spot similar to where we went to Wild Crab. I actually forgot the name of it, but it was like right down the street from my hotel. It was killer. Pretty good. Nice.
Yeah, I know Newton well. Newton Wellesley, right? We were. Yeah. That's actually where I stayed when I was first coming up there to look for apartments. I had one weekend to find an apartment before moving there like a month later. And so, Boston's crazy expensive, and Newton was the only one that kind of made sense. And you can drive out the city and get out pretty quickly. But I like Newton. I like.
Yeah, similar to like being in Decatur in Atlanta. It's like 15-minute drive, or it was for where I was headed.
Exactly. Outside of that, man, how are the B&Bs coming? How's the optimization? Are you starting to see it pick up?
Everything's going smooth. Just trying to make sure we keep occupancy up as we move into, I'm guessing, the slow season. This is my first year doing this, so just trying to get the numbers and understand. But, just slashing those rates whenever I can as we get closer to those dates. I've been able to pretty much get everything filled up. We're having a little bit of a lower nightly rate, but that's okay because we're still more than break even. That's the name of the game. We're in this for the long haul, so we can just continue to get appreciation and get those mortgages paid. That's all good for me. I'm not looking for a ton of cash flow right now on the properties that I have. a house hack on one of them. So once I move out of this thing, it'll definitely be cash flowing. But we're kind of at a break-even point with both of our properties, so we're doing well. So, that's just kind of what we're doing, just keeping it steady and making sure that when we have those busy seasons that we're allocating those funds for reserves as we head into these slow seasons. But like I said, we've made sure that we made enough for the mortgages. So technically, we're still on the up and up when it comes to the B&Bs. And the optimization is great, man. Pretty much hands off. Don't necessarily have any issues, but because we are a little bit slower, I think I'm going to start making some updates. I think I'm going to be replacing some flooring in one of my B&Bs that I have. Got to redo some countertops, things of that nature. Maybe some touch-up paint as we move forward into the busy season. Pretty much had all 5-star reviews, had 1 3-star last week. So, just trying to make some corrections around some of the things that they brought up. But as we do that, I think we'll be pretty good.
Come on now. And sometimes it's hard because it may be something that happened during that stay that's not normally happening, where this person just hits you over the head. They don't realize how hard that's going to hit on the property. So that's a tough one. But as far as like making sure that now during the quote unquote down season, you're making those touch ups and getting it ready, that makes perfect sense. And we're looking to do the same for some of our properties. I think we talked about it before, but the house hack that we're doing, right? We have basically a luxury short-term rental in our backyard, and it's kind of cool because we're able to control that whole experience even more so than we can with a lot of other properties. For the mansion, we specifically have somebody go there before check-ins because you need to, right? Make sure this thing is preem. But for other homes, it's hard to do that. If you got 8 check-ins, how are you going to get to all these homes, right? And it's not sustainable. But for this one, I can just walk back there. So it's cool being able to see like, hey, this is out of place. Let me move this back. Or, hey, let me cut this off or switch this light or whatever, right? And we've been getting 5-star reviews back to back. And this is our first stay of a week. We got somebody checked in today who's going to be here until, the following Monday. So we're right there with you on the optimization.
Yeah, and it's very similar to what you said, man, with the house hack. It's very, very easy for me to pop up, make some changes, do whatever I need to do because it's literally like 30 feet. That's why, very similar to Desmond, I'm trying to just lock down the whole street, man. If I can just get all the houses on one street, maybe I'll get me a bike and I'll just ride the bike up and down the road, checking in and out on my B&Bs, just living the dream.
Like Debo out here, man.
Yeah. Stanley, get off my grass.
That's funny. That is funny. But no, that's aspirations right there. And no, it's kind of like a game of Monopoly. It's kind of like that. Foreshadow. But Desmond, how you doing?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, that's facts, man. Hey, man, slowly but surely, just trying to buy the block up. But hey, man, congrats on the week stay. That's awesome. So things are moving along. That's super cool. But yeah, man, I'm in the same sort of kind of boat right now and really just trying to, make sure things are tip top going into the new year. Make sure more than anything that like my mind and like my strategy and all of that stuff are just in the right place and focused and really just trying to understand like what the next year is going to look like, what the next 5, 10, 15, 30 years are going to look like, and really just trying to take a step back and like look at life and just be like, man, like, where do I want this to go? Like, where can this, what can this be? Where do I want it to go? And just what's the route that can be taken?
I think that might be you.
Is that me?
I think it's okay. Okay, we're good.
But yeah, man, trying to focus up.
Yeah, and to that point, Desmond, I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm going to ask you a question here in a second. But it's good to take some time away too. Like I was gone for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks on a honeymoon, and that time away helped not focus on running the business day to day, but being able to step away and focus on the business and actually write out details of, okay, this is an area where there's a bottleneck. This is a spot that could be a lot better. And you just come back with so much clarity when you take a little time away. But a question for you, while you're thinking about all these grand ideas, have you written anything down? Are we going to see a goal sheet heading into 2025?
Yeah, definitely going to see a goal sheet. I have started to write things down and more so write things down in my business right now, just get things together. So I've started actually writing down SOPs and writing down what is the procedure for handling certain issues. And like right now, I'm the only employee. Or I'm the only full-time employee, let me say that, right? I have some, few vendors, cleaners, lawn guy that I work with, but I'm the only one looking at the SOPs right now, but I want to get it to a point to where I could have someone look at this and know exactly what to do, know how to operate just in case, or just when that time comes, right? Because I'm sure that time is going to come at some point. But yeah, I've really started to think more and like focus more on like just stepping back and like writing down like what the goals are, but honestly thinking beyond, just like the next property and whatnot, and really just thinking about like, career and real estate and intertwined and where, could that go? Like, do I want to, maybe take a, route similar to what you did and go full time into real estate at some point? Like, is that something that I think would, be, fruitful, or just be something I want to do? Do I want to, dig really deep into my career, maybe go back for advanced education? Thinking holistically about that, and that definitely kind of shapes my mind around like my business and like how does that factor in as well. And like I had started off like, man, I want to, property every year. And now I'm starting to ask, is that still the goal? So I have started to write things down though. So I will say that I have in some fashion started to do that. Yeah.
Come on now. It helps tremendously, especially when you start talking about 5-year and 1-year goals, because you're able to come back to it and see, okay, where do we progress to, and realign, right? Like I'm constantly changing up my long range goal, right? At least as far as like the numbers, and it used to be, hey, I want to get 100 units and things of that nature. Now I want optimized units. I think there's enough going on. Like what I'm focused on right now is optimizing the whole portfolio, especially while we're still stabilizing the storage units and getting the townhomes off the ground. I'm like, all right, there's enough money getting poured into that. Let me focus on those and stabilize everything. So yeah, it helps to write it down. Justin, what are your thoughts, man? How are you heading into this final quarter? Are you starting to think about what next year looks like?
Yeah. 100% on the optimization, man. Just trying to look at my current portfolio, which is just 2 properties right now, but how can I squeeze every dollar out of those 2 properties before I go acquiring more properties, right? Because I feel like the more I acquire, it's going to be harder for me to work backwards and kind of get everything I can out of the properties that I own. I was fortunate enough to get one of these properties with a COVID rate, 3%. So I'm like, all right, man, can I make sure that I can just pour maybe an extra 10 grand into this property, right? And just bring up the value of this thing to where I can get more on that nightly rate. And then it just becomes a cash cow for me moving forward. And then eventually I'll get that another property. And then I'll be so stabilized in this property that I'm just kind of not worrying about it. Similar to you, just trying to make it as much of a luxury experience as I can. Because I think the more luxury the experience is, the less issues you're going to have with your guests, right? When you can get that high quality guest, you have pretty much no issues with it. And then you have so much money coming in because your note is so low. I don't know if you guys Rob Abasolo, but like once you can create that spread and you got all this money coming in, now it makes it a whole lot easier to reinvest more money back into that property, right? So any little issues you do have, they just become non-existent because you just pay to get those issues resolved and you move forward. It's not like you're only making a couple $100s on the cash flow on these properties once you can really narrow it down and make sure they're optimized. And Desmond, similar to you, thinking I wanted to get a property every year, but I think I'm just going to do every 2 years, man. Make sure I get that 2-year grace period of if I decide to sell that property, I've already been at it 2 years. And then by the time I get another one, I just can keep going from that. And it gives me a little bit longer to kind of build up that down payment and make sure that we're stabilized on everything else and just kind of pay down the debt. It's a lot of money up front when you're starting a B&B. So I want to make sure that I've already kind of paid down all that debt on the startup cost before I move into the next property. Because Neil was kind of alluding to this, but I felt like I wanted to grow very fast, but now I'm trying to grow and minimize the amount of debt that I have on it outside of the mortgages, right? So if I can keep that debt low and just kind of have that financial freedom of all I got is a note on these properties. So as long as I can make enough on Airbnb to cover the note, I'll always be good. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards now. And eventually I'll just pay down the debt on all the properties and I'll just kind of ride off into the sunset with those. Just having, maybe 20, 30 solid A-class properties that are just generating a good bit of cash flow, then I'll be good.
Come on now. And honestly, there's nothing like that. And the cool thing, like the whole goal of all this, right, at the end of the day, is real estate acts as one of the best savings and investment vehicles. because one, it makes it a little bit harder for you to get the money out. You can't just go and sell a stock and say, hey, the money's in my account, I'm gonna go spend it on something. You actually have to, okay, I gotta go do a HELOC, which is gonna take 30 days or whatever, or hey, I gotta sell this thing, which could take 30, 45 days. And so it forces you to lock in and actually save money on a monthly basis, because every month your mortgage is getting paid down little by little. So that's getting paid directly to you by somebody else. That's one piece. Two, it's going up and to the right over time, especially what we have going around the metro of Atlanta, all the different companies here, all the different investment getting poured in and the different events that are coming here. And so I just like it overall for that piece. But you're right. At the end of the day, you got to make sure that you still have a good balance, right? That you have the real estate, but you also have cash and reserves just in case. And that you also have, if you're doing retirement accounts, things of that nature, it needs to be balanced across the board. Maybe not fully balanced, but you got to have some of the other ones as well.
Just a little bit of flexibility. I think that always works, man. And I tell people all the time, people are like, what are you going to do? Because I invest in ETFs. I just dollar cost average into ETFs, no matter if it's high, no matter if it's low, because I'm looking at it like this. The stock market crashes. Everyone is going to be out of money, guys. If no one has any money, it doesn't matter if I had a couple 100,000 in the bank. It's not gonna do me any good, in my opinion. So I'm just going to continue to dollar cost average into the stock market and see what it does.
Come on now. And one little side break before we kick it to AJ. If you guys haven't already, for you guys that I'm looking at, and also anybody that's listening in or listening to us in the future, we do have our event coming up next Saturday, Breaking Ground, another in-person. Yes, we went back to the same Jamaican caterers, and they're going to hit us over the head with some of those patties, which I'm excited about. But come through for the networking, to hear from some incredible women in the industry that are crushing it. Looking forward to seeing you guys and everyone there. But AJ, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm solid, man. You'll definitely be hearing from me and seeing me because camis, they are legit. I will tell you, ever since the mansion event that you threw, that has kind of been like one of my go-to spots. And I've made a really good relationship with those guys over there. And Shamel and his family is awesome. So I haven't been there in a couple of weeks, but man, they got some of the best Jamaican food in the city, hands down. So
come on now. I'm trying to get them to sponsor the podcast. I'm working on it.
Listen,
that place is amazing.
Solid.
Yeah. But how
you got a tough opponent this week, AJ, by the way.
Who?
Yeah. Oh, he's talking football.
He's wearing I just realized he's wearing the Bills. The Bills, man, 3-0. I like it. They look good.
We look good. We just gotta stay consistent. The Bills are have a long history of just kind of like a roller coaster ride. But I'm really liking how we're looking right now. So it's gonna be an exciting weekend for sure.
Come on now. But outside of that, how is business? How is the real estate coming for you?
Honestly, it's solid in terms of like real estate. So personal life wise, I actually just got laid off of my W-2 about a month ago. So I've really just been trying to navigate the waters with that. But the real estate piece, I think me and my wife just kind of teamed together because of, obviously the implications of the W-2. And it's like, hey, we still have this real estate portfolio that we have to manage, right? So one thing that we did immediately afterward was, number one, obviously cut back on all the unnecessary expenses and things like that. Unfortunately, I had a trip that we were going to go to Charlotte, but I just, completely nixed it. I just didn't think it would be in our best interest to go ahead and spend money frivolously after especially being laid off. But then after that, we kind of just reassessed our real estate portfolio and actually transitioned to midterm rentals. And one of the reasons why we wanted to do that was just to have that secure income coming in for the next, I think until the end of the year. So we're solid. And then that'll buy me a little bit of time as I'm actively applying to different jobs and interviewing and things like that. So that's kind of what I've been up to for the past month. It has not been at all.
Is that?
I think
what do you got over there?
That's me. No, that's me. I may have to.
Okay.
Software today, he got a specialized keyboard over there.
Yeah, he got something crazy over there. I don't know what he got.
Like, hold up, man.
I do software too, but I ain't never heard that. Go ahead, Nee.
To that point, this is a weird time period, especially with companies. And AJ, we feel for you. We know you're going to be back on your feet here quickly. And it's one of those where this is a good time to kind of tighten up the ship, right? I think what you're doing is smart to start to, okay, not have some of those, ups and downs, at least get through the winter, especially if you're able to secure those midterm rentals, which you've been successful in, right? Getting a couple midterms. And so if you're able to get a longer one, it buys you time to not have to think about it. And it also allows you to, while you're doing that house hack, still have income coming in that's helping pay that mortgage, which is the whole point of doing it to begin with, which is awesome when you think about it. I think he's still working on it.
Well, yeah, man. AJ, definitely feel for you, man. And obviously, you know about my situation with the NBA. So hopefully I won't be in the same situation here in a year, but I've just been trying to proactively set myself up for that as well. Just as these companies continue to trim, it looks like we're headed towards a recession. People are already said we're kind of already in a recession. So we're probably going to start seeing that a lot more often with these companies as they try to tighten up their ships as well and kind of keep costs low.
And that's part of the reason why, when you think about it, the Fed's cutting interest rates, right? They started seeing the unemployment tick up and things of that nature. And so they're trying to, complete that quote unquote soft landing, which I think they've done an amazing job, right? Quelling inflation and now starting to bring the interest rates down a bit, but they're doing it for a reason. And as you head into the winter, things historically slow down anyway. And so you got to look at the opportunities that are going to come our way, which is opportunities to refinance, potentially get other items in, right? If you're able to still go out and acquire assets and things of that nature. But most importantly is actually, shoring up the shores. You got to play defense before you can jump out there and play strong offense.
What do you go ahead?
No, please.
I even though I'm not looking to buy right now, I guess I'm always looking to buy if the right deal comes out there. I've still been looking at still check properties from time to time, right? And I haven't seen a ton of inventory for like multifamilies. I remember a while back, man, I saw this great opportunity. It was like 3 single family homes essentially on one lot, but they were selling as a, detached triplex type situation. I haven't seen one of those come across again. Like a property like that is one that I really be looking forward to, or even a lot of that nature, because I kind of like the idea of the multifamilies, but I really like the idea of the detached units on one plot of land, right? Someone's already came in and set up 3 different properties, but they're selling it as one unit, essentially one unit as one sale. I really like those, but it gives you that privacy for when you're running the Airbnbs as well.
100% agree. And the ones that you're talking about, I've seen a couple come across, but they get snatched up quickly. Like you got to have your ducks in a row, ready to go. Like right now, I'm working with an investor out of California who's looking to buy multifamily in like grade A or B plus neighborhoods. And so we're looking and running the numbers on this triplex that's out in Alpharetta. It does need a little bit of work, but the numbers are incredible on this thing. And it's like, dude, if we want to move on this, we need to move on it, right? Because it's not going to be here. Whereas some others in, more questionable neighborhoods, right? They'll sit for a bit longer, especially as we head into the winter. There's a 4-plex that I'm working on with an individual who wants to get something that is just barely qualifying, right? So like all the units need renovation. They want to go and house hack it and put in all the sweat equity because they've done some flips before and just build that thing back up. And so those ones are sitting for a bit. That house has actually been on the market for like 6 months. So we're going to go in there hard and see if we can't get like a crazy deal. But for the ones you're talking about, grade A neighborhood, you got to be able to lock those up pretty quickly. Like the one I'm sitting in now, we locked this up back in February and didn't close on it until middle of July, right? So it's that type of deal.
Yeah, and I feel like I was gonna say, just to your point, Justin, I feel like they've always like, even when I was looking a couple of years ago, it was hard to find. Like this property, the one I'm sitting in, we like went after it the same day, a couple hours after it was up, and then like basically the next day we were looking to go through the closing and whatnot. But yeah, like I think they're hard, and when you're actively looking to buy a multifamily, I feel like you have to just be constantly looking, like day in and day out, and then also to the point of just like locking properties up early. I didn't realize, I guess, how common of a thing that was. Like my homie down the street, he did the gut, and now he bought the property across the street from it, and he got that one on a like first right of refusal that he basically had them sign a couple months prior, and then lo and behold later they were willing to sell it. And I thought that was, one, super smart, but I also didn't realize that people were doing that and that like seller would sign into that. But that's definitely been on my mind of like, man, like, if you see a property, particularly if the people are like out of state or they're older, I think it's something that someone might be willing to agree to, more than you might think. Like, I wouldn't think anyone would ever sign that, but it does seem like, and I'd be curious to hear, Nee, like, is that something you've seen people do as well? Is that something you've done? Because I feel like that can be a great tool to just lock something down even before you're ready to buy it.
Dude, so it depends on where you are in the market, right? When we were getting that first fourplex with you, I want to say it was 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we were still coming out of it being a seller's market, and the interest rates hadn't hit the level that they hit last year and early this year.
Thank God.
And so, yeah, thank goodness. And so with that in mind, it was still a seller's market. So it's a lot harder to get what you're talking about then. But we've been in a buyer's market for at least about 6 months, right? And we're still in a buyer's market until these interest rates come down enough and we hit the spring. I think we'll be in a buyer's market until the spring, right? But long story short, right now, even some of the listings that we have, one of them that we just got sold was subject to. This person was like, hey, I'm willing to do subject to and really have no money down from the buyer, right?
Wow.
It's outside of like closing costs. I picked up one earlier this year, subject to. There's many ways right now to go out there and negotiate deals, right? But it's your comfort level. Hey, do I have enough reserves to float this thing while I get it turned around and all of that? And that's the hard part. It's exactly what Warren Buffett says, right? When everybody's fearful, which is right now, this is when you should be greedy. This is when you should be out there buying, but it's hard if you don't have those reserves in place and ready to rock.
Good point. Justin, you're on mute.
You got to swim into the tide. When you see that big wave coming, you got to swim into it. You can't wait for the wave to pass. You got to ride the wave.
Come on now. But switching gears, not even to that point. Have you guys within Hospitable been using that knowledge hub at all? Have you started playing around with that?
I haven't, no, just because I'm not sure how much I trust it, one, but also I don't have too much communication going on to where I can't just go in there and reply. But I'm curious to know if you have and like how it's been working, because I thought about it.
Dude, it's pretty cool. So
Really?
I would highly recommend trying it out, especially if your goal is to eventually train somebody to help you with messaging and things of that nature. The way we've been doing it in the past is we had like this Word document that had all these details. Hey, what type of beds and baths do we have? Yes, you put it on the listing, but I'm sure you guys get questions as well. Like, hey, what kind of beds you got? It's like, listen, it's all listed there, but you may have to tell them. And so what this knowledge hub allows you to do is to put all the information that you put in there, as well as anything additional, like, hey, you can only park in these areas, or, there's 10 stairs leading up to the house, or whatever information you want to put in there. And then you essentially it parses it out and pulls the information. Here, let me actually share. Let me show you what I mean. So it essentially parses out that information, and it's
used in the AI, right?
Yeah, you're
So
training the AI, the ChatGPT, essentially to. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
To be a VA in a sense, right?
Exactly.
That's
And so
huge.
now instead of having to go to the Word document, now you plug it in and boom, you've got all the info. It just pulls it. So now anytime somebody says, like, hey, I got a question on this, when you do that suggest AI, it's a lot more powerful and a lot more accurate. And you can just keep updating this. And so I see the value of this as replacing the need for multiple people to work around the clock. You really could probably just have one person and, yourself during like the daytime and hit the suggest button. As long as you put all the details in here, any new questions that you get asked, put what you're going to answer there, it'll start pulling that information for you. And eventually probably be able to automatically answer on your behalf down the road.
Right. And
Neil, you invested in hospital?
It can answer, can it? Can it already do the answering? Or no?
It does, but it wants you to hit send. Right now, it won't automatically send.
Okay.
Unless you have like questions, right? But people can ask anything, and it can pull from all the data that you have. Like,
But right now, it's not
hey,
automatic.
this is our address. If somebody asks like, hey, how do I get to here? It'll give everything. Restaurant recommendations, you can put all that in there, and it'll spit it out.
Are you invested in Hospitable? I know you've been rolling with these guys for a long time. I just want to know if you're invested in them. I know they offer this thing to where you can invest directly in the Hospitable or something along those lines.
I definitely should. I'm almost all in on real estate, but soon I'm going to start putting some more money into stocks and things of that nature to rebalance. And so Hospitable is a company that I believe in. I think right now they're still only taking it from people that use Hospitable. And so that'll be one soon that I want to put some money into. Funny that you mentioned it. And the reason Your boy got champagne today is because we hit the $100,000 mark for direct bookings with Hospitable.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible.
That's huge.
Like a whole box. Like
So me saying bye-bye to Airbnb?
Hey, we're trying to as much as we can.
That's huge. And how long have you been doing direct?
I think direct came out, was it last year?
And you signed up basically immediately. Yeah, it came out last year.
Yeah, as soon as
it might have even been
hey,
this year. I don't know. Might have been.
No, I think it was last year. I think it was last year for direct.
I need to still sign up on that.
You're not on direct yet?
No, I'm not, but I've started to think about it more, and I actually have a question kind of coming out of this convo, but I've been starting to think about it more since I think we're starting to go a little bit more into the slow season. I've had to think a bit more about the calendar and the bookings, or like in the summer, and especially even last year, I didn't have to think about it. It was just booked. Like I would look, it'd be a month out, just booked. I'm like, all right, sweet. Like we're rolling. Now I see some gaps. I have to do some optimizations. I have to go in there and change the price, yada, yada. So I'm starting to think about absolutely doing direct. It's on my, to do and like button up list for something I need to get done by the end of the year. I'm also curious to know, and also on the topic of optimization, what do you guys think and have seen to be the best improvements to a property that you can make? And, maybe specific to short term, maybe long term as well, maybe both. But it's something I have started to consider, as the calendar maybe slows down a little bit, like what's the value in adding a washer and dryer? Or, what kind of benefit is that going to bring? What's the value in, I think less so in like small additions of like, oh, I'm going to do this accent wall, or I'm going to put up this, wall of wallpaper. I feel like it has to be something pretty big, or unless you're doing a full house renovation and you're making it super nice. But it's definitely something I've started to think about. It's like, what is that maybe one thing I could do to the property to kind of set it over the top and differentiate me from the others? And like, I definitely plan to like go and look and do the research, get on Price Labs and check out other listings and whatnot. But I'm curious to know, just, in you guys' experience, what have you seen to be the most valuable?
Say family friendly and like wheelchair accessible. Like, cause I just had a kid, right? Like we had an extra playpen, or a bassinet thing. So if you put that in the home, like people who have newborns or infants, they'll book your house because most of the other homes don't offer it. They need a safe space for their children to sleep. So if you have like a fold up one that can just go in the closet after it's used. So like if you have it listed as like, hey, upon request, just let me know if you need the playpen, then you just tell them it's in the closet. Right. And they can just pull it out.
Right. Because babies have to sleep in a crib or some type of bassinet. You can probably tell I don't have a kid, but they have to sleep in a special type of bed when they're so young. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of families are traveling with their young children. So if you have that, it just kind of pushes you to the top of the homes that they can stay in. Like they may want to go in another home, and if they don't have a place for the kid to sleep and they don't want to travel with that thing, you just made it a whole lot easier for them. Or maybe having like a high chair. Like those things are pretty much, I would say, low ticket items that could really boost your status. You booking somewhere on booking.com. You gotta think about the people that are traveling from overseas and places upon that nature. Like the farther you're traveling, the less things you're trying to travel with.
Yep.
That's actually pretty incredible. Because Justin, you are fresh into this. This is something that my wife was saying, like, hey, we should put that into the back. And so is this something that you actively look for now, or you're like, hey, it'd be good to have playpen, high chair, and things of that nature?
And two, if you look at I think Airbnb shows you the most things that people are looking for, or something along those lines, like the categories that you can check, like the most ones look for at the top. So like people that have like a crib or a bassinet or things of that nature, they're always at the top. It's almost equivalent of like having a fully stocked kitchen. Think about it, because there's a ton of families that travel. The most people that travel, based on the data from Price Labs, is couples and families, but in couples with children. So, I know a lot of us are investing into like single families and things of that nature, but I've actually kind of been looking forward into investing into more properties, multifamilies that are like 1-1s, right? Because if you can just lock down all the couples that's traveling, it makes it a whole lot easier versus trying to fill up a larger space. And your cost of acquisition for those properties should be a little bit lower, because generally families aren't trying to buy those type properties. So if you're trying to have these boutique hotels, so now you just got these 1-1s and you're just looking for the travelers. So of course you'll be competing with hotels, but we're already doing that kind of in this market anyway.
Absolutely. And you're totally right on the 1-1. And I've seen that my 1-1 has consistently done better than my 2-1s which I'm thinking, oh, I got more space. They're going to want that. No, but I'm having to lower my price on the 2-1 almost to what it is on the 1-1 to get those bookings, right? Just because it's a lot of couples, it's a lot of smaller families. Yeah, great point.
One piece I would add to that. So that's noted, and now it's been in my head twice. So I need to make a move on those and get those added to the listing. But washer and dryer, as you mentioned before, huge. We have a couple 1-1s in our portfolio, right? And most of them do not have washer and dryer. But we recently added 2 earlier this year that do have a washer and dryer in unit because they're slightly bigger. And for example, one of them, we've had the guest. I want to say they booked back in like early July, and they've just continued to extend. I don't know why. I'm not sure, what's going on with their house, but they've continued to extend and extend and extend. And I think a lot of that has to do with actually being able to wash your clothes and things of that nature without having to, go to a laundromat. Whereas one of the other ones that we have that's, visually nicer, we've had people stay a bit longer, but some of the feedback they've given is, hey, I wish, you did have some type of laundry facilities that we could utilize, because it is kind of annoying, and you don't want to stay for a super long time if you got to go to a laundromat every 2 weeks, right, and kind of wash your clothes.
Yeah.
So I think the washer and dryer, if you're able to do it economically, right, if you have a water source that's nearby, like a closet or somewhere that makes sense, would be an awesome addition.
The problem I have, I don't have enough electric in the unit that I want to do it in, so the panel would basically need to be rewired. It's like an older panel, so there's not enough. I think they might be just 100 volts, and I think we need like a minimum of 150 or something like that. But I don't have enough basically breaker box to do that, so I need to basically redo the whole breaker box to add space. I'm like, at that point, we're going to start opening walls and finding all types of shit out of code. The building's like 50 years old, so I don't think it's something I'm probably planning on doing. But even a facility, having somewhere they can go. Hey, like it's not in unit, but you're allowed to go here to do your laundry. I feel like could still be powerful because people aren't staying a long period of time without. People aren't going to the laundromat unless they already do that in their day to day, and that's unlikely the types of guests that you are housing anyways, particularly in the nicer homes.
And Desmond, I'll do some research if you could, man. I'm sure like nowadays, I feel like you can just pretty much buy anything. Like I'm sure there's some type of unit that they sell for specifically that case, right? To where it's like, oh, this home is outdated, but this unit can take this type of power or something along those lines.
I just don't want to burn my house
like
now.
They just.
But I hear you.
Well, I'm saying like some type of additional power source, right? They have these like a generator situation to where like you can run stuff off of different things like electric generator or something along those lines. I'm just sure would imagine there's some type of use case out there for your specific situation.
That's fair.
Reddit is always great for those things of that nature. Like living in a basement now, like I use Reddit all the time for like weird things that happen from living in a basement, and it's helped me out tremendously.
Come on now. And it's one of those where, I think when you look at older homes, right, what are they doing in Europe? All those homes are old, and they have like these weird systems that do wash and dry, which I'm still trying to figure out. But there's probably a solution out there. The other piece is what we've done for some of the houses, especially the bigger ones, is we have a laundry service now where the guy will come and take all the sheets to wash them so our cleaners can do back-to-backs. And so maybe, it's not crazy expensive. That could be something that you offer. Hey, we have laundry service, for your clothes.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's probably better than a washer and dryer. Honestly, even if you did have a washer and dryer, that just screams upscale service, right?
Yeah, it's like you have a butler service for your laundry. I might even do that. But that's actually a really good idea.
Cool. I can give you his contact. Dude's pretty cool. From Philly, actually.
Please do, because I've seen the laundry services, and I've seen that like you can do it. Like there are certain ones tailored to Airbnbs and whatnot, but I had never thought about providing it as a service for the guest, because that could be huge. Like if you book, 30 plus days or how many X plus days, you get the laundry service included in your stay. That could be like the game changer, I feel like, between unlocking those longer term stays. Because right now my stays are never any longer. Like I've had like one guest stay for longer than a month. Other than that, the like 90% or more of my stays are like 1 week or shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
AJ, what you got, man?
I've Yeah, I've kind of had the luxury of being able to either control my laundry. In that situation, like both my properties, it has a separate door and a separate entrance to laundry. For shorter stays, most of the time, like Airbnb, short-term rentals, things like that. They're staying like 4 to 4 days. I'll probably just lock it off, and that's only just due to the fact that I feel like in those situations, a lot of short-term guests can cause more damage than anything. So especially just for a couple days, and even me personally, if I'm going on a trip for just a few days, I actually don't need a washer and dryer. Everyone's different, and it definitely is nice to have. But for those longer stays where people are staying like 7 days, or longer, week at a time, 14 days, things like that, we'll actually open it up. And for the situation that I'm in right now, obviously midterm tenants, they're staying, for months, like 3 to 6 months, right? They have access to that. Obviously, my other property has a family there, so they definitely have access to that. So yeah, going back about the amenities and everything, I definitely you guys brought up some valid points, especially about the cribs, like things like that. I might have to disagree with you on the aesthetics kind of wallpaper, things like that, Desmond. Personally, I really like that, and being able to tap into those things, I think really draws and leans on to the experience aspect that you get from Airbnb, right? Because when you go to hotels, you just kind of blend like hotel room, basic amenities, right? So I don't know. I'm a different kind of guy. Like me personally, I like those different amenities, wallpapers, like that. It's kind of like flashy stuff. Especially with a lot of people come in, they like to come, have a good time. The different. I think what's in right now is like the wall with it's kind of like a turf wall with some the lighting. I think you guys are going to see like
the grass wall with a neon sign.
Yeah. It's the TikTok generation now. So people love things like that. So I'm actually actively trying to see if there's ways to optimize my property. Actually, want midterm move out, so I have to wait a little bit. They'll be moving out sometime I believe the end of November. But yeah, once they come out, I think we're going there. Just freshen some things up. Probably put a couple of new paint in there, and just see if we can optimize it. So then once we get back short-term rentals, we can really get into that. And then hopefully that'll be able to allow us to increase the ADR on nightly price and things like that, which ultimately brings in more revenue. So this is my take though.
Absolutely. And no, I agree with you. I definitely think aesthetics matter for sure. And I wasn't trying to say that they don't. I think one thing is that it can be hard to understand like the value that comes out of that. I think it's like a harder thing to analyze and like research based off of. It's really easy to filter, does the house have a washer and dryer or not? But there aren't really any filters around like, oh, is there like cute wallpaper or like accent walls, and do they have like the turf wall? But I do think it's at least I'm going to put it on me to like do more research, because I'm really curious to know for my own business, and I'll try to share what I find with the group on like the nicer properties. I mean, you can tell looking at a property, this property is a bit nicer, a bit more luxurious looking than some of the other more plain, just simple properties. And I'm curious to see, like, is that something that can be seen as like worth it, right? And just like how to try to quantify that. So yeah, it's something I'm going to look into.
Desmond, I think you really have to define who your market is too, because if you market to everyone, you market to no one. So like if you decide that like, hey, I'm going heavy into marketing my Airbnb to families, right? So it makes it a whole lot easier for the things that you want to include in your Airbnb. Like if you're trying to market to Gen Z and to families, like it's just going to become very muddy. And like now you're marketing to everyone, and no one really is going to say like, oh, this home because of this, that, and the third, right? So if you're looking to market it, like for my Decatur property, I'm marketing to large guests that are coming for like, I'm not going to say events or whatever, but like we're trying to give them a backyard space. We're trying to give them 5 bedrooms, all with clean beds. So if you have multiple adult couples coming, those are the people that we're marketing to, right? We're not necessarily marketing to families, but families could book our home, but that's maybe not who we're marketing to, right? So I think it depends on who you're marketing to. Like if you got a 1-1 and you're trying to get couples in there, maybe you have like a spa type experience in the bathroom, and you have this TikTok photo wall, things that we were talking about. But if you're marketing to a family and you're 2-1, maybe you have a crib and you have some amenities for children, things of that nature. So then you're hitting that market every time. So anytime a family is looking for a B&B, they're going to choose yours because you have these amenities for these kids, versus 2 adult couples. They're not going to choose this B&B because now you got these amenities for your kids and they don't want to be in a room with dinosaurs and things of that nature.
That was highly specific, but no, to that point, we are at time for today, but I think this was an awesome discussion and it was cool to kind of talk through some of the things that you could do to differentiate your property. One piece I would add to that is there's going to be a cap depending on how many bedrooms you have, because you've got the competition around you, right? So if you're in a 1-bedroom, there's only so high you can go, even with the amenities that somebody's going to be willing to pay. And so sometimes you got to zig when everybody's zagging. Like Justin has a huge house, right? If you lean into the luxury of that space and kind of the story, you can definitely increase that ADR and go crazy with it. And that's kind of what we leaned into, was more that luxury market with this most recent B&B. And it is different. If you do go luxury and you go with a slightly bigger house than what's out there, it allows you to just charge a heck of a lot more. These people are staying for a couple of days. They're paying like $2,500, right? It's like, okay, that's pretty cool. It costs a hell of a lot to get it up and running, but now we're starting to see the effects. There's somebody that booked for early next year, and we have our pricing set up as such that if you book further out, you're going to get hit with a lot because you definitely want these dates. And that person's paying like $4,000, right, for like a week. So long story short, you can definitely have it pay off for you. You just got to figure out, what are the things that you can do with your size of unit to reach toward the higher ADR for that size. If it's 1-bedroom, what's the highest 1-bedroom's pulling in? Let me look at those, and how do I get there?
I'm sure your cash on cash return is crazy though, even though it took a lot to get it started. Making $2,000, $4,000 a week is like, I'm sure you'll get that back quick.
Yeah, I'm happy and I'm pumped, and it's cool being able to see it and work through all the kinks of that first month, because now we're off to the races. But guys, it's been good seeing you guys. I hope to see you next week. We're going to be interviewing somebody next week. Pretty incredible. I'll send out her story probably a couple hours before, but I hope you guys have a good evening, and I will catch you a little bit later.
All right, fellas, take it easy.
Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast track your path